Hi, I'm Caleb Chapman, president of the Jazz Education Network, and we're here today with the next installment of our Beyond the Notes series with my longtime friend, legendary saxophonist Bob Sheppard. Bob, your career is one of the most storied in jazz. I've always been such a huge fan, from the likes of Steely Dan to Chick Corea and everything in between. Tell us, a little bit about how the market for jazz and how today's experience for musicians is different from when you started. And I love talking to you because you've got the experience not only as a musician and a performer, but also as an educator in your role at USC. So how has it changed, and what advice do you give musicians today?
Well, thank you for asking me to do this interview, first of all, and your very kind compliments. There's so much that's changed. We need a few hours, actually, and a couple martinis because I can really get going. But the idea of teaching young players about jazz and how to play jazz is always something that I loved to do, and it's really changed a lot because it's sort of like reverse engineering. Jazz now is reverse engineered. Just the way I learned and the way all my colleagues learned and the way everybody learned how to play jazz was not in school.
Right.
There might have been helpful instances in school, but it was really learned by the fact that there was jobs. There were music. They needed musicians to play.
Right.
And I'm a jazz player. That's what I love to do. But I played every kind of gig there is I can imagine. Right. I just wanted to go out and learn how to play, and making a little money, and then you figure out like going into the gig, and you don't do well, and I'm never going to do that again. And then I would go out and buy the records, and I would practice, so I would be able to get hired back. So I would keep working, and every time that I did a gig, I learned an immense amount of stuff, and that's what helped me become a professional musician, because I was able to just fit into any musical circumstance. So that, for me, that's how I did it. And a lot of my friends and colleagues out there, we just sort of learn on the way. And of course, the inspiration was there for us. Mm-hmm. And when you got the inspiration, either you heard it on the radio or you went out to actually hear music live, man, that was inspiration that you couldn't wait to get home and get your horn so you could reproduce that.
Yeah.
Right? So I could go on and on about things that aren't the same now, but what I think is very, very important, and how I try to teach, is to go back and figure out how I learned. Because most of the most important stuff about jazz cannot be taught in a school. Right? It cannot be taught. And there's so many things that cannot be put in a curriculum that are the most essential elements of learning how to play.
What are some of those things? If you could enumerate them, what are a couple of those aspects?
When I was working with a student the other day, right? So he's playing and he sounds good. He's got the notes. He's the sound. I'm always working on sound. Sound is an interesting thing in itself, because sound, if you can get close to what your inspiration is, it will help you learn how to play. If you're playing along with Cannonball Adderley and you're trying to sound like that, and you do your ear will tell you if what you're doing, you'll experiment and do it. You'll do the right thing eventually if you really critically A/B yourself to what you're going for, right? So this is very important, because a lot of students now they're set in their own mind that they're already good.
Right.
And I tell them, there's not even any professional, the best players you've ever heard in your life do not think of themselves as like, I'm great, I'm good. We know we could play. We know we could do it, but we're always going, how could I get better?
What's the next step? What's the next level?
There's always improvement, and a lot of young people are set in their own minds that, my teacher, yeah, that's great, Billy. You sound great. Ever since they were 10 years old, they would say, you're great, you're great, you're great. No, the best learning experiences of my life when people were honest with me, right? And that means any teacher that I had, certainly players that I play with, or you go on a gig and you go, hey man, you got to learn that tune. You're out of tune. people told me when I was not good. Very important thing. And this is whatever self-esteem generation, or a product of this this idea like you have to encourage everybody all the time. You don't learn that way.
No,
you don't learn that way. So, not to say you're trying to discourage them. You're just trying to be honest. I think young people need to be told the truth.
Well, and I think
about many levels of what we're doing.
And I think you and I both agree in our philosophies, our approach to education, that the the pseudo good feelings that come with telling everybody you're doing wonderful, Johnny, good job. It just doesn't. The kids know. The kids, even if we're telling them that, they know that they're not really doing it. And so
they don't want to hear that.
No. The real elation and the real joy from music comes when you can be direct and honest with your students and prepare them to lift them to the next level. Because then they experience real success and the real joy of really achieving something and being able to express themselves with their music.
Absolutely. I think the honesty, and so that on a personal level of teaching a student, the honesty, I try to just be get them to listen to themselves and realize, hey, look, listen. They don't. A lot of young players, they just play. They're in their own little worlds, right? And they're not. They don't actually record themselves or listen to themselves. It's like. When I go out to do a clinic, I go, I'll play a little at them, and they try to get them to relate something to me, and back and forth, like try to use their ears, right? That's how I learned how to play. There was music on the stereo, there was music on the television. I had my horns, I picked them up, and I tried to match everything I heard. Right? Get your horn out of the case and don't. It's not just I played a half an hour today. You gotta get some inspiration and love and fun in practicing.
So I love that word.
Fun in practicing is huge. Because if it's not fun, you're not going to get good at it. You're not going to want to pick up the horn and do it. So a lot of teaching is based on it's a curriculum pedagogy. Just saying that's bad. Mistake, that's bad, right? You got to make mistakes. Learning how to play jazz is all about making mistakes and being able to hear that they are mistakes and then make the mistake not a mistake. Make it sound good, right? The more your ear has to be working, so fast that unless you're doing that all the time. So, is there a lot of this going on in teaching? No,
not enough.
Not enough. Not enough. And so that's something that has to be taught, and there are ways to teach it, but it's very hard to put these kind of concepts in a curriculum, right? And people are coming through college based on, well, this is the curriculum you teach. I have all these students that come in and they're learning very high concept stuff, and they're not ready for it at all. That's discouraging to someone that's going, they're learning all the things you are, but they might not be able to play on a little Montuno, or one chord and play in time, right? So, not to say you shouldn't be trying to play those tunes. It's great. Anything that you feel that you want to learn, hey, I just go after it. But there's a way. It's not linear, and how people learn, how kids learn, and how I was an ear guy more than I don't know, right brain or left brain. I can't remember.
More than analytical.
Right. Some people are very analytical. They just want everything plotted out for them. Well, you know what I do with those guys? I go right to the ear. Because you have to have both things to play jazz, right? Ear has to lead all the time. Some people are ear players and they hear stuff, but then they don't get the theory of it, right? And then we're going to work on this. So teaching teachers how to teach and teaching students how to practice is something that should be in every college. But how to practice is difficult. Right? It's really difficult to learn how to practice. There's you could practice hours and hours every day practicing the wrong way and not achieve very much. Right? So having fun in the practice and incorporating your practice so it's not massive and hard. Right? Oh, you got to work this sunny sit right? Okay, that's a cool lick. You like that lick? Take the first part of it. Take the first little chunk and get that really and make it feel right. So, but I have got
master it and then
and then play it in every key and make it swing. Get the articulation. It's what's behind the notes. That's what's important. It's like I have a guy the other day. He's a da 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 da. He didn't know what to do with the ends of the notes. The ends of the notes is what makes it swing.
Right.
Do that, dat, dat, do dee dee do dat. How do you teach that in a class? Well, your tongue, it goes back 1/8 of an inch behind the reed, and then you can't talk about it.
It's like trying to learn a foreign language by somebody handing you a book. It
doesn't work unless you hear it,
right.
And then hear how. So when I try to teach by demonstration, always, you can't talk about this if it's music. It's oral. I play it. No, da da, dee do da da, and they go da ta da da da. No, da da. A few times, all of a sudden, their ear figured out what their tongue needed to do, what the air needed to do, right? Right. Because they were zoning in on the sound, and their ear went, well, let me try something different. Oh, use more tongue. Use blah blah blah. It's trial and error. A lot of this stuff, as you know, it's trial and error
right.
based on the sound. So how do you get these things incorporated in education, jazz education? There's ways to do it, and I think that kind of approach needs to be talked about more, because now it's been so quantified in a way, the jazz education and how to do it and how to talk about it, and it's like to me it's like it's reverse engineering. It was never talked about in these ways. It's and not to say it's not important or interesting, the stuff that they're talking about, but a lot of it is about supporting your own stature as a teacher, or because academia has that built into it, right? That's what it can do. But this is not studying engineering or medicine. This is about sound. This is about swinging, right? So I have these conversations a lot with people because I didn't learn that way, and anybody that I
can tell
know,
you've never really thought about this, Bob.
I'm sorry, I get involved in the whole thing because I have kids that are frustrated. They want to learn how to play and they want to have fun, but they're getting piles of information that they don't need right now, and it could be great, 3 or 4 years or 5 years from now, but it's not what they need now. Right, and so I like to, continue that sort of discussion about how to incorporate these real needed, issues of how to teach people and incorporate ear training. There's so many fun things to do. You got to make practicing fun.
Well, I think you've given us a lot to really think about.
I'm sorry, I was
it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And so some great ideas there, and of course the idea of making this practicing fun and keeping musicians, young musicians especially, motivated. I don't think we can put enough emphasis on that. So thank you so much. This is Bob Sheppard, Beyond the Notes, and we'll see you next time.